Will Norman Osborn be able to work his program and stay on the straight and narrow, or will the events of Dark Web end up pulling him back to his life of evil and villainy? Well, let's hop into the pages of Gold Goblin issue number 2 and find out together, shall we? So then, as we join the book, Norman is having himself a nightmare. He's regressed back to that fateful night wherein he was impaled by his own glider. Spider-Man ends up melting away, only to be replaced by Ben Reilly Chasm. Don't worry though, because there's actually very little Chasm and very little Dark Web in this Dark Web tie-in. When Norman comes to, he's no longer in his office where Ben left him for dead. Instead, he's back in his brand new Gold Goblin lair thanks to the help of his daughter-in-law, Liz Allen. Yeah, that's right, Liz apparently knows everything about what Norman has been doing, trying to become a superhero and trying to right the wrongs of his past, which is really interesting. That she's so supportive of superheroism here and is trying to help her family stay together because she wants her boys to be able to grow up with Norman as their grandfather, yet in the Venom book, Liz is like a villain. Norman says that it was dangerous for Liz to risk life and limb to try and pick him up. No, don't ask how she knows that he was in trouble, she just knows, okay? Liz says that she doesn't fear all the possessed everyday objects and that she left the boys with her brother, Mark Allen, the Molten Man. Oh, do I love continuity and connective tissue like that, and this issue is actually full of it. Now, believe it or not, this issue isn't just about the Osborn family either, as we check back on in with Owens. That was the name of the brand new jack-o'-lantern that Norman beat up at the end of the previous issue. This guy's under arrest by the police, and one of the doctors is actively trying to give him a psychological profile, only as we discover this jack-o'-lantern isn't nearly as dumb as he may have seemed. He actually seems to have quite the knowledge of medical science, which makes sense because he was stealing dead bodies for medical research. More on him in a minute though. Liz and Norman end up driving their way through New York traffic, which is made even more murderous recently because of all the new demons. They take a detour into the park, where Norman swerves the car and ends up crashing it to avoid hitting a small dog. A dog that, yes, just so happens to look like Mucky, Norman's own childhood dog. Which, if you're a longtime Spider-Man fan, you'll remember the famous J.M. DeMathis story wherein we see little boy Norman beat the dog to death so it wouldn't be another mouth to feed. Man alive, Cantwell really did his research when it comes to bringing up all of Norman's old sins. The book also leaves it open-ended if this whole dog thing is a result of Limbo bleeding into Earth, or if this is just Norman's guilty conscience torturing him some more. After that absolutely insane detour, Norman manages to get Liz and everyone else back to Alchemex, which is locked down currently. The security is good and they think they're going to be safe there. Unfortunately though, Norman unbeknowingly ends up letting a real wolf into the henhouse in the form of Dr. Kafka. You see, Norman, in an absolutely genius bit of writing, actually sympathizes with poor Ben losing his memories because of Beyond. Norman says he wants to use his own amazing scientific technology combined with Dr. Kafka's knowledge of clone biology and Ben's own psychological profile to give Chasm his memories back because, well, if he gets his memories back, then this whole stupid event can be over. Wow, Norman is officially doing more to help Ben and save the day than Peter is, everyone. Let that sink in for a second. Okay, he's not doing it for totally altruistic reasons. You see, Norman actually wants to learn more about how Beyond was able to manipulate a person's memories because, well, he wants to manipulate his own memories and get rid of all that guilt. Even if it means once again turning himself into a scientific guinea pig, which, considering Norman's long history of goblinism, has never really worked out well for him before. It's right around here too that the other major shoe ends up dropping, and that is that Dr. Kafka's clone reveals herself to be none other than the Queen Goblin, the creature that was created when Beyond put Norman's lost sins into a human form. And why, yes, Norman thinks it's absolutely stupid that they were able to combine the magic of the Sin Eater with some sort of scientific process to create a new goblin. Though, what else is not lost on him either is the absolute tragic irony that his sins are very literally chasing him down and trying to kill him at the moment. The book once again also plays with this theme of emptiness. Norman keeps talking about how ever since he lost his sins and tried to be a good guy, there's been a major hole in him that he can't seem to fill in because, well, that hole was filled by all of these sins that also feel equally as lost and astray. Norman, as the Gold Goblin, manages to give Queen Goblin the slip, but not before really hurting himself after taking a super nasty fall. This new revelation also gives Norman a pretty damn understandable reason to be pissed at Peter. After all, Spider-Man knew full well about Beyond and the creation of the the Queen Goblin. And yet, for some unknown reason, Peter never decided to tell Norman that, hey, there's a brand new supervillain running around out there powered by your very sins, and oh yeah, she might come after you at some point. Man, from not being able to talk to Ben to dropping the ball with Mary Jane and even dropping the ball with Norman, Peter just cannot do anything right recently, can he? Norman returns to his base of operations to make ready for war. If his sins are coming after him, then he's going to be damn ready to put them down once and for all. It's here too he ends up actually seeing the ghostly figure of Gwen Stacy again. Ghost Gwen berates Norman for this newest course of action, saying that he's just falling back into bad habits once again. He has a problem, and what's he gonna try and do? Instead of solving it, he's just gonna try and kill it. A course of action that's made all the more grimmer when you remember that Dr. Kafka was actually a good person who never asked for any of that stuff to be done to her by Beyond. Now, as the comic comes to a close, we see that it's not just Queen Goblin that Gold Goblin is going to have to contend with, as Jack-o'-lantern used the chaos of the demon invasion of New York City to slip his bonds and escape the hospital, meaning that he too is going to be gunning for Norman for revenge. And so that was Gold Goblin issue number 2, everybody, and I must say I'm glad I kept up with this book. I was a little wary knowing that issue 2 was going to be a tie-in to Dark Web, yet lo and behold, it seems like only the Spider-Man-centric parts of Dark Web are actually bad, and everything else connected to it is mediocre to actually kind of alright. What worked about the first issue of Gold Goblin works here too. Cantwell does a really good job exploring a tortured character like Norman, who is trying to make sense of the world now that he no longer knows who he is or what his place in that world is. Hell, well, I felt like Dark Web was picking up on one of the worst things from the Beyond era of Spider-Man, namely turning Ben into Chasm. Here it feels like they actually picked up on one of the better ideas, and that is poor Dr. Kafka being turned into Queen Goblin against her will. It's also really fun to see Norman continue to be written as such a smart guy, as a problem solver. Hell, he basically manages to pinpoint everything wrong in the Dark Web story quicker than anyone else. And you know what? I actually hope he does solve the problem, and I hope he actually does help Ben get his memories back, because I think that would genuinely be really cool. Overall, I did enjoy this issue, and I'd feel comfortable giving this one a 7 out of 10. My only complaint is, as much as I liked it, I'm sure I would only like it more if it wasn't connected to Dark Web and if it was allowed to do its own thing more.
Hey there everyone, Cape Jewel again, and I want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you see, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. It really helps drive engagement and helps me out too. Also, if you are a patron, which you can become for as little as $1 a month, you will get exclusive content that no one else can ever see, and you'll get to see the Comic Multiverse podcast before anyone else too. You can check out all this and more down in the description. And until next time everyone, this has been Cape Jewel, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.